Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we are currently rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who, episode by episode. My name is Connor, and with me is the floating thing in my ceiling. Go on, introduce yourself.
Charlotte, but you call me Charles.
Yeah. I've made that up on the spot, I'm not going to lie. Do you remember the last episode when we covered Joy to the World?
Yeah.
And I introduced you as the Joy to my world, and I thought, oh, that's sweet, almost sickly so. And I thought, it might be fun every episode to introduce you as something either sweet or sinister, and it'll just be like a coin toss, and then every episode you'll be like, ooh, is he going to praise me or is he going to slag me off today?
Oh.
And then I remembered having that thought right now doing the intro, and then thought, what do I say?
Well, okay. The floating thing in your ceiling. I don't know how, but okay.
Yeah.
You're editor-in-chief.
Oh, God. I'm the editor. So we took a bit of a detour last episode. Last week we covered Joy to the World, the Christmas special for 2024. We're now back on track. We're back to series 1. Today we are covering episode 7. It's called The Long Game, which aired originally on the 7th of May 2005, written by your friend and mine, Mr. Russell T. Davis. I guess the only thing I have to say going into this one, well, two things. One is, I would say this is not a bad episode to me. This is a perfectly middling average episode, but I do think that this is the weakest episode of series 1. I'm tempted to say you probably don't agree.
I don't know.
Not because you like this one, but because you think others are worse.
Middling.
Yeah, I think this is the weakest episode of series 1, but I still like it a fair bit. I don't think it's a bad episode.
I liked it more on a rewatch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's
I'm not
good.
going to lie. Me being throughout most of it going, Simon Pegg, all the way through kind of pulled me out a little bit. But
Yeah.
but he was great.
The only other thing, I know we've talked before about series 1's dynamic and how I've said that like every episode ties into the finale. I feel like this is probably the most important one. Other than maybe like Dalek. I guess this is the most important one that ties into the finale of this series. But that's all I have to say in terms of like preamble and pre-episode stuff. Anything you want to get off your chest?
No.
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 No?
No.
No, okay. Get straight into it. So this episode begins with the Doctor in his 9th incarnation, Rose Tyler and Adam Mitchell.
Mitchell, yeah.
You said that so confidently, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I knew that because of later on in the episode, it's like, oh, your friend Mitchell. And I was like, that's not his name. I was like, oh, it must have been his surname.
Yeah.
It opens with the Doctor being a wingman.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So
does.
the TARDIS lands on Satellite 5, which we soon learn is like a space station in the year 200,000. And yeah, the Doctor's kind of wingmaning Rose. So they kind of pop out and he kind of gives you a quick, brief kind of like tips and hints in the span of like 10 seconds. And then he kind of leans back with his arms folded. And then Adam comes out and Rose just kind of repeats the spiel.
Yeah.
So this is like Earth at its peak. The Earth is covered with mega cities. There's 5 moons, population of 96 billion. They're in a center of a galactic domain that stretches across millions of planets and species. So yeah, Rose is kind of smugly being like, feel the vibrations in the floor. Definitely a space station. And the Doctor's like, he looks like he's being amused, but he's also kind of proud at the same time.
No, I don't know. I think it's like a rolling of the eyes, like, oh yeah.
I don't know, because I get the thing where like he's clearly amused by this because he's had to give her like the rundown first because she's just repeating what he said. But I do get the feeling that he is kind of proud because this is the first episode, or maybe not the first episode, but this is one of the most clear examples, I think, of how far the two have grown since the beginning.
Yeah.
Their dynamic feels very different to the way it does in Dalek, which is funny because obviously Dalek was the previous episode, but they still feel like they've not been travelling long together by that point.
Do you think it's because Adam takes like the naive companion role, so Rose kind of has to step up a little bit from there. I know she's already kind of more comfortable anyway to kind of throw herself into things and join the Doctor, but she's less inquisitive generally, isn't she? She's not like, wow, what's this? She's just like, yeah,
acting
it's
like
another
the norm, isn't it?
It's another space station.
Because it's series 1 and every story is either on Earth or on a space station.
Yes.
We don't get an alien planet until like second half of series 2, I think.
Oh. No, we don't. I thought
unless you count like the parallel Earth as an alien planet, but yeah. So as Rose is going on her spiel, Adam faints.
Oh, right, I know. Yeah, so they take him to the window to show
the observation deck.
Yeah, to show the Earth, and he faints. And the Doctor goes, "He's your boyfriend," and Rose goes, "Not anymore." And it's like, what? He faints. He faints, and she's like, "No, I don't know." We've already
established how shallow Rose is.
She's like, she wants a quote unquote man.
Yeah.
And just like, oh yeah, he's a pretty boy, but he faints at being taken through time and seeing Earth like hundreds of thousands of years.
That's travel
in the future.
sickness at its like most severe, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be fair, even if there wasn't time travel involved, you see how the TARDIS shakes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So yeah, he's your boyfriend, not anymore. Cold open over.
Yeah.
That's the titles. Once the episode comes in for real, we have the three of them kind of walking around. Yeah.
I noticed something here. Obviously, we've seen this episode before.
Yes.
I noticed something here, which is, I don't know what you would say, like a hint or something that's like, oh, to what's to come.
Right.
The Doctor said, Adam's like saying, questioning things.
Yeah.
And the Doctor goes, "Oh, Adam, open your mind."
Oh, right.
And I was just like,
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I never put that together. No, that's a good catch. That. Yeah, that's good.
I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but it fits either way.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I feel like that would be something.
Probably.
Russell would
Yeah,
do.
it does seem like something Russell would think would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought of that.
Yeah. I was like, ooh.
No, that's good. Yeah, good. So the three are walking around. The Doctor's now kind of taken over the spiel. He's talking about, again, human culture at its peak. You know, the best of manners, best of food and all that stuff. And then almost on cue, a bunch of the nearby like vendors open up. It's a bunch of like fast food vendors. People all of a sudden appear and start shoving each other. And it just looks like you're kind of in Newport Town, doesn't it?
Yeah, just in a bustling market somewhere.
Yeah, and it doesn't look very like high tech. This is something I've noticed rewatching series 1 now, especially not long after watching the latest season 1 with Ncuti. Is that what I love about this era of Doctor Who, in particular these first few seasons, is the same thing I love about the original Star Wars trilogy.
I was going to say it's very Star Wars, isn't it?
It's the sense of like everything's sci-fi, but also quite industrial.
Yeah,
like it's not Star Trek. Do you know what I mean? Where it's all like white and silver and chrome and sleek. Everything looks very industrial. Everything's very like, I don't know, looks mechanical and kind of bulky and clunky. And I like that because it seems more like something that was put together on a budget rather than that thought of, in the future, everything's just going to be sleek and stylish like an Apple store.
Yeah. Do you know what? Funny you should say, because a note I've made, I noticed it later on in the episode. It's random. But I'd noticed how Star Trek Rose's outfit was.
With the red and black.
Yeah, but it's like
she's got like a racing stripe down the sleeve or something, isn't she? But
it's like a side zip. It's like diagonal zip.
I've never actually watched any Star Trek.
Neither have I.
Oh, look at us. We're both making Star Trek comparisons now.
But I've seen the outfits.
That's incredible.
And it feels very Star Trek. From what I've seen, anyway. That like the
I know what you mean, yeah. But the red shirts are like the Expendables, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're always the side characters that get killed off in the episode.
Yeah, but I noticed later on, like when she's in a lift, I was like, that's quite a futuristic looking jacket.
Yeah. Adam makes the point that all the people nearby are human. He says if we've all like expanded across millions of planets and species. Why are they all human? Where are all the aliens? And the Doctor says, that's a good point, actually. He looks a bit confused and he wants to go and investigate. So he tells Adam and Rose to go get something to eat while he goes off and investigates, essentially. He asked the guy at the nearby sort of vendor store thing, how much for a Kronk Burger?
Not a Kronk Burger.
What do you reckon a Kronk Burger is?
It's the issue is it's not going to be.
Is Kronk a brand, or is Kronk like a type of meat, or do you reckon it's like tikka? You know how like chicken tikka is not actually a specific, or like peri peri, how it's not like a specific recipe. It's just kind of a rough kind of flavoring style.
I just think it's a name they've given to a burger because they're in a space station.
It's like Disney.
Yeah.
Burger le Kronk.
They're in a space station and things don't really go up and down floors, so it's just the main floor that things come off of. Where do they get the food?
I assume someone travels between the floors.
Maybe.
I assume
Maybe they've got like I know this is so stupid. Maybe they've got like a little farming station.
Or like in the Dr. Falls, how they have like that floor of a spaceship that's just like a farm.
Kinda, yeah. Maybe they have that, but they don't have meat. It's just random space mixture of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Doctor asks the guy how much for a Kronk Burger. What did he say, like 2 credits or something like that? He says, "Get back to the queue, sweetheart."
Yeah.
So the Doctor goes to a nearby cache point, gives a bit of a flash with the Sonic. What?
Yeah, and gives them what we later find out as unlimited credits.
I thought you looked at me like that because I said flash.
No.
He gave it a flash.
Give it a flash.
He gives Adam a credit stick, I guess you can call it. It looks like a credit card, in it, it looks like a cylinder / tube / like maybe magazine for a gun. But yeah, we find out a bit later it's got like unlimited credit on it. But he essentially gives that to Adam and says, don't spend it all on sweets.
Yeah.
I'm going to go investigate, basically.
And Rose stays with him and he's like, go spend time with your boyfriend.
Yeah, go spoon or canoodle or whatever it is you British people do.
No.
The Doctor meets Kathika and Suki, who are both journalists. He shows them, he starts asking questions and they're like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you know where you are? So he shows them the psychic paper and...
Suki's like, are you management?
Yeah, he basically says, yeah, that's me. You got me. You seen right through me. And he shows the psychic paper and says, yeah, I'm management. Kathika, we quickly establish, is keen for a promotion. She wants to go to floor 500. The Doctor asks why, what's on floor 500, and she says the walls are made of gold.
And that's all we know about this.
Yeah, that's
all anybody knows about this floor.
Yeah.
Why does that matter to you? The walls are made of gold. Nothing else is up there.
Yeah.
Do you mean you do the
same thing? You
same
don't get to take
thing?
any home. You don't get to go mining at the walls.
They're just made of gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this kind of conversation between Kathika, Suki and the Doctor kind of establishes where we're at and what we're doing here. So Satellite 5 is a new station that's broadcasting 600 channels across the Empire. And at this point we cut to upstairs where we meet the editor, played by Simon Pegg. He's quite good in this.
I like him in this. I think he's very good.
I think he's one of those actors where, especially in like British culture, if you used to seeing him in like Shaun of the Dead or he's in a lot of the later Mission Impossibles, things like that, then I can see why you'd maybe find it hard to concentrate. Like you said earlier, like you just pointed and be like, oh, it's Simon Pegg. But I think considering he normally plays kind of a goofy, aloof kind of main character or comic relief side character, I think he's quite good in an antagonistic role here.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's not like the big monster or anything, but he is quite, I don't know. I don't think sinister is the right word, but he does have like a...
deranged.
Yeah, he does have a weird kind of vibe, kind of aura around him, which I think he pulls off quite well. He comes off a little slimy and a little gross. Yeah. So the editor has a vibe that something is off and someone on the station is there that shouldn't be. So he orders what appear to be his staff working at computers nearby to do a security check. We cut to Adam and Rose kind of sat down at a bench nearby. Adam basically says he misses his family. Rose is like, this is incredible. Look where we are. Look at all the stuff. And Adam's basically saying like, yeah, but like everything we know is just gone and dead, which is kind of the same.
It's the same thing that
Rose had in the end of the world, isn't it?
Which I think is quite sweet because obviously she understands how he feels because her first trip was
to the end of the world.
To the end of the world.
Yes.
Was so far in the future. So I think it's very sweet that she offers him a call off of her phone.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because, like we said, this is essentially the same thing she had in the end of the world, where the doctor's trying to like show off and kind of impress her, and she's like, "All the people I know, my friends and family, they've all been dead like millions of years." The doctor says, "Oh, bundle of loss you are," and yeah, obviously to comfort her, he gives her
the phone.
He sonics her phone, doesn't he? And then she's taken over that role now. She's returning the favor. She's now, Adam is where she was. She's in that doctor role and she's giving him her phone to make that call. I'm going to make the same point that you did during the episode for the end of the world, but I feel like this is more of an issue. I remember you asked, how does the phone know when to call?
Yeah.
So my thought was the doctor had it like pre-programmed because he didn't sonic it, did he? He like put a new battery in it or something.
Yeah.
And I assumed he had it on like a setting or something, so it always calls 2005 or whenever. So that's how Rose was able to call home. She gives it to Adam. Adam calls home. Obviously, Adam's from 2012. Meaning...
Yeah.
Either when he called the voicemail, he was leaving the voicemail like, 7 years in the past. Or somehow the phone just knows.
Maybe. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the same, they've had the same number since...
Yeah, but they might have the same number, but that's what I mean. It's like, he dials the number, and it's like, how does the sonicked up phone, or the super phone...
I know what you mean,
How does it know what time period to call the phone?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. That's me.
That's a MacGuffin that we do not question because there's so many things.
That's the thing, though. I remember
he even asks. He even says, like, "Do I need to put anything in it?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, just call."
Yeah, I guess that is kind of Russell himself just saying, "I'll just go along with it."
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I remember you asked the question during the end of the world, and I kind of justified in my head by being like, "Well, off screen when he prepped the super phone, he kind of put a setting on it or something."
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that obviously the doctor hasn't messed with it this episode, it just happens to call Adam's home in what we assume is his home time of 2012.
You don't think he's done like what you see in Capaldi's era, where like, when you touch the TARDIS and it takes you, I think that's Capaldi's era, where it takes you to where you're thinking of, like you find Clara when she's in Listen.
When she puts her fingers in the weird like goopy thing. Yeah.
And it like senses where you want to go or what you want to find. Yeah. You don't think he's put like little weird goopy things on the back of the on the buttons.
Oh no.
So it senses when you want to call.
Oh, I don't like that. Oh no, that's a sensory ick, that.
The little buttons are just touching your ear as you call.
Yeah, you hold the phone up when you're talking on the phone, and the little buttons are like licking your ear as you're talking. There's a reason I always put the phone on speakerphone.
Yeah. I'd just like to make a little comment before this section.
Yes.
Obviously, is it... Oh, what's her name? Kathika is showing the doctor all the news channels.
Yeah.
And we see a news channel that is called Bad Wolf.
Yes, we do.
And it's the face of Bo.
Yeah, face of Bo's pregnant.
What?
I know, yeah. It's Bad Wolf TV, right?
Yeah, Bad Wolf TV.
Yeah. So what were we doing? So Adam's just... Rose has just given Adam the phone. Mm-hmm. Adam... Does he go to call or does he call?
He calls and he hits the voicemail.
Yeah, but he doesn't leave a message, does he?
Yeah, he does. He leaves a message. He basically says to his parents, like, I've gone travelling with some people and I'm okay. I love you and I'll speak to you soon.
Right, yeah. It's very brief.
Yeah.
And then the doctor pops his head around the corner and he calls him over. He calls him Mutton Jeff.
Yeah.
And he calls him over. This is when they go into the room where a bunch of reporters are kind of sat in a circle around a chair.
Yeah, before this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, maybe because she's caught up in the moment, she walks off, leaving Adam with her phone.
Yeah.
And then he just gives sus this little look and then pockets it.
That's the thing. I know, obviously, from context of having seen later on, we know what he's thinking and what he's planning on doing. But it does make it seem way more sinister than it actually is. The way he like flips the phone, pockets it, and then has this evil little like grin when he walks away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because, I mean, maybe from Rose's point of view, she's just like, keep it, for the trip. So you can make calls whenever you need. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very like...
I'm surprised that I guess it was a different age back then, because obviously the phones weren't smartphones or anything, but I'm really surprised that she gives him the phone and doesn't ask for it back. She gives him the phone and just walks away. I'm like, that would not happen today.
No, it wouldn't.
Can you imagine like lending someone your phone and then they just pocket it and walk away, and you wouldn't happen, would it? He's like, give me my phone back. Maybe it's because it's not a smartphone. I don't know, but surprisingly trusting or just...
Well, surprisingly trusting, but we'll get on to that later.
So after the doctor calls them over, like I say, they go into that room where the reporters are kind of sat in a circle around a chair in the middle. They all have these kind of instruments in front of them. It looks like a kind of plastic panel with indentations, room for you to put both of your palms down on it. And the chair in the middle is where Kathika essentially sits down. She introduces everyone there, because obviously the doctor's still posing as...
higher management.
As management, and he's asked her to basically take it from the top, as if I don't know anything. So she's kind of explaining how this all works. I've noticed that Kathika introduces everyone there as ladies, gentlemen, multi-sex, undecided, or robot.
Yeah. Robot. How does that work?
Well, it's robots, isn't it? It's androids and stuff.
Yeah, but... I guess, I'm surprised they just hadn't used them in general. It'd be easier than installing a chip.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. The only reason I wrote it down is because as soon as they said it, I thought way less... what's the word? On the nose and kind of intrusive inclusions have been made in recent years, and people are so quick to jump to the gun of calling the show woke. Yeah. And I can't help but just think, if that happened today, I know that sentence itself is kind of a cliche now, but like, if this episode aired today, or if in one of Shooty's new episodes, that line, ladies, gentlemen, multi-sex, undecided, or robot came out, there were people going, oh, Doctor Who's woke. Yeah. Oh, it's gone woke. And that was just a thought I had during that very brief sentence. That's that I fair, thought, like, it's always been this way. It's not even just Russell. It's been this way in the classic era as well. But Russell has always been really inclusive. I mean, this is still series 1.
Yeah, like what, 2005? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know
it's like, it doesn't seem that long ago, but it's, even for us, it's very different times.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, we haven't even got to, like, Captain Jack yet, who I think is most people's... Like, where their brain usually goes when they think of Russell being kind of diverse and inclusive, even though Jack technically is a Stephen Moffat character. But yeah, like, it just goes to show, like, this whole time. Again, even like the way that guy who selling the Kronk burgers was just a bit camp. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's just those kind of things where it shows, especially in the far future, that it's just not that important. No. And we kind of... I mean, Capaldi has a line, doesn't he, where he says, like, my species of massive time travel, do you think we get stuck up on petty things like gender? And it's like... I like the thought that even, like, humanity gets there eventually. Yeah. Even if it takes us 200,000 years.
Yeah, it's one of those things, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter what or who people are, as long as they're nice and you're nice to them back. Yeah. Like, that's the only thing that matters. And, I mean, we find that in this episode, there's lots of horrible people.
Yeah, yes. So, Kathika sits in that chair in the middle of the room. She tells them to engage safety. That's when everyone around her puts their hands on that panel, which is what I assume that's there for. And she clicks her fingers, and she has... like a little door in her forehead that kind of goes zoop and opens up, and you can see like a little porthole into her head and see her brain. The CG's not great, is it?
No, but do you know what? I think the design of this is so cool because it's so creepy. Yeah. Like, if you had like a door...
It's kind of dystopian.
If you had a door where it's just two little, doors, I guess. Yeah. And and they open up to the side, it wouldn't look as weird as these like little metal pointy things.
They're like weird, like, you know, if you picture like a deck of cards and you have the spades suit, it's as if you had like a spade
or like
on
little
up, down, left, right. Yeah. Kind of little pointy bits, up, down, left, right, kind of 4 that then close into basically just become your forehead again.
Yeah.
It's very, very gross looking. I think they put too much drop shadow on the brain CGI, which I think makes the CGI more noticeable. I think they tried to add detail into it, but they added too much detail to the point it looks more fake. Obviously, it was 2005, and we already established they spent a good amount of the budget on previous episodes and stuff, so fair enough. The only thing I think is cool is a little later is when Adam gets it and he kind of like touches it and he somehow like flicks the metal thing.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, the way it reacts to his finger does seem kind of natural.
Yeah.
So I quite like that shot. But in general, I think the CGI for the weird brain door is a bit ropey.
They did freak me out though, like as a kid.
Yeah.
Or today. We just sit in the chair like...
It freaks me out now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now this little door in her head is opened up. Everyone puts their hands on the panels, and an energy beam comes out from above and starts streaming this kind of white-blue light into the hole and into her brain. The doctor's kind of explaining this. It's streaming information through her brain. She's essentially acting as the processor for the computer systems that broadcast news. Rose says something like, "Oh, that must make her a genius. Do you know what I mean? She's got all this information." And the doctor says, "No, she won't remember any of that. She's not going to retain the information once the link is severed because the brain couldn't handle it. She's essentially just acting as like the processor."
Yeah.
So he says, obviously, each reporter, including all the ones around the side who are kind of acting as the safety, have a chip in their head too, which receives the packaged information from Kathika and then transmits it to the news channels. Essentially, is how that works. It's one of those things where it's not super important to the episode, like how that works logistically, and it's like, it's very kind of, you stop paying attention for like 10 seconds and you'll miss how it all works.
Yeah.
But I do think when you actually have the information and you think about it, it's quite cool.
It is quite cool.
It's quite a cool sci-fi, not gimmick, but you know what I mean.
Concept, I guess.
Yeah. Adam is like amazed. He's not fainting anymore. He's just kind of, he looks like really wowed by it.
He also does seem a little bit not queasy.
He's grossed out at first when Kathika like clicks and opens the door in her head, but once the doctor's explained all this and you can see the information going in, he's like wowed by this. But the doctor looks perturbed. He says, "No, this tech is wrong." I like how Rose says, "Trouble?" And he looks and goes, "Oh yeah." And he's just kind of got this like grin as if like they both just love the thrill of this life, essentially.
Yeah.
So back with the editor. His check hasn't had any results. His security check has come up as no security breach. He's not convinced. So he asks for a double check, and it reveals that someone in the newsroom has unauthorized access to the systems. I quite like this because obviously...
You think it's a doctor.
The whole time you assume it's the doctor because obviously him, Rose and Adam are the first ones. Obviously we're following them and it's their first time there. Whenever the editor's saying that someone's there that shouldn't be, we're seeing them on the camera. So you're kind of led to believe that that's who it's going to be. And then the reveal that it's actually Suki, I think is quite...
It is cool,
quite a good reveal.
Especially because initially you think, oh, he's got the wrong person.
Yes.
So he's like, he's bringing her up. But he's meant to have brought the doctor.
Yeah. Once the editor kind of works out that Suki doesn't have the access that she should, he terminates the transmission and reports to what appears to just be the ceiling. Obviously, once he cuts the transmission, the beam stops going into Kathika's head, and Kathika's like, "What the hell, Suki? You know, we weren't even halfway." And she says something like, "Oh, sorry, it must have been a glitch." This is then when they get that like broadcast on the screen that says there's a promotion. Someone's going to floor 500. Who is it? Kathika's really praying it's going to be her, but no, it's Suki. She's so bitter about this as well.
She's so bitter. I do note this later on, but
yeah, she says something like, "How the hell have you managed that? I was ahead of you, or I was above you."
Yeah, she's like, "I've been applying for 3 years."
Yeah,
and she's like, "Oh, I just applied by chance. I didn't think they'd give it to me."
Yeah.
So they go outside
Yeah.
after this, and Suki's grabbing her things ready to go up to floor 500 in the promotion. And I found quite strange, for it give me a little chuckle, that Suki hugs the doctor, and the doctor says, "I'll hug anyone." Will he? Will he hug anyone?
Apparently.
Apparently so. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll hug anyone.
Yeah. I quite like that, though, because, again, that's like... It does feel fitting with this incarnation of the Doctor, because he's one of... Maybe after David Tennant, he's one of the more human and kind of a bit less alien versions of the character. But again, the growth he's had just from Rose. Like, I can't imagine him in Rose...
Hugging anyone.
Hugging anyone. Do you know what I mean? The way he kind of, like... I don't know. Just... I don't know. Strode about.
I like how the Doctor
brooding.
kind of has... like a gut. It's like his gut has a feeling. So you can't imagine him ever hugging Adam. And Adam's an issue. But Suki's like a secret rebel, and he's like, "I'll hug you."
We should get that on a shirt.
What?
Adam's a problem.
Adam's a problem. He is a problem.
Yeah. Speaking of Adam, he's a bit overwhelmed. So he says to Rose he's just going to go to the observation deck and chill for a bit. Rose says, "Do you want me to come with you?" And he says, "No, it's all right. You stay with the Doctor." He says something like, "It'll take a better man than me to get between you two," or something.
Yeah. And then she gives him the TARDIS key.
Yes.
What?
Too
trusting, Rose. Why?
You could argue it's Rose being trusting. This is maybe the one...
she's trying to, like...
this is the one part of the
him.
episode where I feel like it's a bit contrived. And I feel like Russell kind of... I don't know if he wrote himself into a corner, but I feel like this is the one part of the episode where I don't believe that this is how the characters would act. And it seems a bit forced just for the plot to happen.
I mean, I don't agree with that. Because I can imagine Rose thinking, he's obviously not taking to this as well as I did. And
Yeah.
And she's probably thinking, oh, well, he can, if this is too much, he can go and sit in the TARDIS and take some time out.
I do understand that thought process, but I honestly believe that Rose cares too much about what the Doctor thinks.
Yeah, to just give him a key.
To give the key. Do you know what I mean? Even if what happens didn't happen, just the Doctor finding out that Rose gave her key to Adam, I feel like Rose would know the Doctor wouldn't like that.
Which doesn't really come to play. She never gets scolded for it.
No.
But I don't know whether that's because the Doctor thinks that she did it for, like, she had good intentions.
I guess, yeah, it never really comes up.
No, but you would. The Doctor in this series, or series one, well, in most of the series, doesn't hold back on scolding his companion when they do badly. I mean, the next episode he really scolds her, but
I mean, he's already done it at this point.
I mean,
he did it in The Unquiet Dead. He did it in The End of the World.
Yeah. So I don't know. For me, I would have thought him being like, I know you're trying to do, trying to take care of someone, but I gave you this, and this is big. Don't ever do this again.
Yeah.
You would expect.
I guess we can just
like
presume that happened off screen.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe he just gave her a look and she knew. She's like, oh, shit.
So Adam goes to the observation deck. Suki says goodbye to Kathika and says, like, thank you to the Doctor. He's like, well, I didn't do anything. She's like, yeah, but you're my lucky charm or whatever.
Yeah.
She gets in the lift and Kathika says something like, good riddance. The Doctor says, you're talking as if you're never going to see her again. She says, well, I won't. Once you go to floor 500, you never come back. Ooh, ominous.
Why would you? The walls are gold.
I love the thought that it's like, an Astrobot, all the little bots that love things and they're like running around, they got little heart eyes and they're like just touching stuff. I love the thought when you get to floor 500, it's just like hundreds of people just go, ooh, it's touching the gold walls. So we follow Suki as she goes up to floor 500. The walls are not made of gold. They're covered in frost and snow, and it's very cold and icy and doesn't look that nice.
No. I mean, we obviously find out that she's, at this point, that she's not who she says she is. Yeah,
so initially first she's going through the corridors and she comes across a newsroom similar to the one downstairs with the chairs in a circle, but it's obviously frosted over and it's filled with corpses. There are like skeletons and stuff in there. Then she goes a bit further into the control room and she meets the editor.
I put, this is kind of fitting for what came out recently, but I said the editor does a Wallace wave.
He does.
Just a little smile and just. Yeah, if nobody really understands what that is, watch A Grand Day Out and the point where Wallace waves
right at the end
at the robots as they're going off. It's like
when the rocket's blasting up and the robot looks up at him and Wallace kind of waves with his hand like over his head and he does like a weird I don't know, it's like all in the wrist.
Yeah, it's like big palm
It's like palm completely open, but instead of waving side to side as you'd expect, it's like up and down. It's really weird. So she goes into the control room, she meets the editor, and he basically plays her records on the screen. Basically, we established that her entire application and personality and life is a lie. Her name isn't real, her background isn't real, even like the way she talks isn't real. Because it's like she eventually pulls a gun on him, and the way she speaks just changes completely.
Yeah, completely deadpan.
Yeah. He essentially determines that her job application is a lie. She's actually the last survivor of an anarchist group called the Freedom 15. After she points the gun at him, she asks who controls Satellite 5. So this is when we essentially establish the Freedom 15 are monitoring broadcasts. Information's being manipulated from Satellite 5. The whole system's corrupt type of thing. How very somehow current still. Fake news and all that stuff.
I know. I was going to say it is very current, but I don't know. It's
somehow more relevant now though than it was then.
Yeah.
With the advent of social media and everything.
It is, yeah.
Especially with how
it does show
with people like Donald Trump, like how fake news has gone to become not just something that is like a conspiracy theory, but it's something that like presidential candidates use in their campaigns.
Yeah.
And it's become...
Especially with the rise of AI.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because I think it was always that thing that people assumed was just like a bit of a conspiracy theory thing. It's like, the government are trying to hide things from us. But now it's like, we know it's there.
Yeah.
And there are political motivations to hide things or to tell non-truths and things like that. So, obviously, it's not really something I picked up on as a kid. I was more so just like, ooh, where's the alien? But, well, like... Yeah, it's somehow more relevant now than it was when it aired, which I think is something that you can't say for a lot of Doctor Who, I think.
No, a lot
of Doctor Who tends to be kind of stuck in the era it's in. Like you can take things and be like, you can kind of apply this to whatever, but its actual intention seems quite dated sometimes. But yeah, I think this one's aged relatively well in that aspect. So yeah, she says the whole system's corrupt. She wants to know who the editor's working for, and he says that he answers to the editor-in-chief. He says, you can talk to him if you want, we'll have to take this upstairs. And he points up, and she looks up, and we don't see it yet, but we get a POV shot of something from above in the ceiling, heading towards her. She starts shooting it with her, laser gun, and she screams, and that's it. We assume that it kills her. What I find quite funny is if you look at the editor in this shot, he walks, he backsteps out of frame and he covers his ears as if he knows she's going to scream. And he covers his ears because he doesn't want to listen to it.
I didn't notice that. That's good. I like that.
I found that quite funny. Downstairs, the Doctor is still asking questions to Kathika. She kind of works out that he's not management.
Yeah.
What does he says something like, this is all wrong, haven't you noticed? And she says we don't ask questions, and he's like, you're a journalist.
Yeah, how can you not ask questions?
Yeah. So there's been kind of vague conflicts and threats from the Empire that have basically resulted in no aliens. That's why it's only humans.
Yeah, immigration has tightened up.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has kind of resulted in humanity's growth essentially being halted since Satellite 5 began broadcasting, which we work out is 91 years ago.
Yeah.
So humanity's growth has been halted 91 years, which is funny because when you think about it, when you think that we're the year 2000 or 200,000, sorry. 91 years doesn't sound like a long time, but if you imagine that our progress was halted by 91 years.
Look at the 30s.
Do you know what I mean? 1930s. If we were still kind of in that,
crazy.
That's like so many advancements in that time.
Yeah.
And I always thought that as a kid. I was like, 91 years isn't that long. You wouldn't think stuff would change that much, but it's like, no, it really does.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of crazy. So then we see Adam
being sus.
Yeah, so he's on the observation deck and he accesses the terminal. He wants to learn about future technology, so he asks about the history of the microprocessor, and he's getting all this information up on the screen. He calls home on Rose's superphone and starts leaving himself a message, basically with all the information, which we're going to assume he's going to try and benefit from somehow when he goes back to the past. One thing I did find funny is that he begins, the microprocessor became redundant in 2019.
I know, I noted that as well. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was replaced by something else.
You would have thought Russell would have given us a little bit more time to get rid of the microprocessor.
Yeah.
Hey-ho.
No, here we are, 2024. Well, actually, yeah, we're recording this on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So the final day of 2024, we're pushing 2025. We are still very much using the microprocessor.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will be for some time to come.
Yes. So once he starts kind of trying to stream this information, the computer restricts his access and it directs him to floor 16.
Which we already know from Kathika. That's the medical bay where they put the, I don't know what she calls it, the door in her head, basically.
Yes. So Adam goes down there and he speaks to the nurse.
He says he's from the University of Mars.
Yeah.
And she's like,
oh, typical.
Typical.
Yeah. So he says he's having technical issues and she says, no, that's medical. There must be a problem with your chip. He says, oh, yeah, that's definitely it. Yeah, haven't got one.
Yeah.
So she looks at him like he's a bit thick. She basically tells him that there are two types of chips. So we got type 1, which is small and invisible to the naked eye, gives you basic access so you can interact with terminals. And then you get type 2, which is like the one that Kathika has, which gives you the door in the forehead to your brain. And that lets you link in fully to the archives. The way she explains it is that type 1 lets you connect to the computer, where type 2, you are the computer.
Yeah.
I think for what Adam wants to do, type 1 would have been fine.
I agree. Also, it does make you feel... I don't know whether because he's a quote-unquote student and he's like on a jolly, but imagine if Kathika had to pay 10,000 credits to get the door put in her head and she's just trying to get a promotion and they keep batting her down. Like,
Speaking of promotion, right, this nurse has to be like, I don't know, she's got to be getting commission or something because she really pushes...
I mean, she
type 2 chip, doesn't she?
She sees the credits and she's like, oh.
She does, yeah. But she really pushes Adam to get that type 2 chip.
She gives him another type of thing, didn't she? She put the microorganisms in his esophagus or something.
Yeah. So Adam thinks it's too expensive for him, but then he goes to walk away and kind of remembers the credit stick he's got.
Yeah.
So he says, is this any good? She says, that'll do nicely. And that's kind of when we get the reveal that he actually has unlimited credits. Which, I wonder if the doctor intentionally gave him unlimited credits or whether he just kind of went beep, boop, 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 and just gave him something and didn't even realise.
I love the idea of the doctor giving him unlimited credits just to keep him away. He's just like, go do whatever you want. Don't come back to me asking for more money because I'll give you as much as you want.
Yeah, he's like a grumpy dad at the arcade.
Yeah.
He's got like a 6-year-old kid coming back going, oh, I need more change.
Here's 50 quid. Go play on the machines for a couple of hours.
Yeah. So back upstairs, the Doctor and Rose access the mainframe. The editor gets the result of his double, triple check, whatever. And the computer finally realizes there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
It says they do not exist.
They are no one.
He says, who are they? And the computer says, they are no one. Oh. And he has trouble kind of believing this.
He's like, and the girl, she is no one. Both of them.
Yeah, he's so expressive.
Yeah, he's like, what?
Yeah, he says, you know what we do with non-entities? We bring them up. So the doctor works out that something, once he's kind of hacked this terminal and has access, he works out that something is venting hot air from the upper levels. Something upstairs is generating a lot of heat, and it's pumping all that heat down, which is why it's so hot. The editor essentially gives the doctor the passkey for the lift.
Yeah. He's like, somebody likes me.
Yeah, someone up there likes me. The editor just kind of like laughs.
He's like,
yeah, Kafka doesn't want to get involved. So she essentially walks away and goes, yeah, bye-bye, not interested.
Fair.
Have a good day. She really wants that promotion.
She does.
Yeah. So the doctor and Rose get in the lift and they go to floor 500. The doctor kind of gets the impression that something's off here because he tells Rose to go back.
Yeah.
And she says something like, yeah, fat chance, and walks off ahead of him. And obviously they've noticed the walls are not made of gold. It's all snowy and frosty and all that stuff. They find the editor in his control room, and obviously all the staff members on the computers, including Suki, who is now obviously toast.
Yeah.
She's
well,
dead.
If anything, she's quite opposite.
Frozen bread.
Frozen popsicle.
Yeah, she's frozen, kind of dead, just like on the computer.
Yeah.
So the editor is basically saying that, you know, who are you? Why do we not know who you are? How do you go your whole life and not leave a single footprint? You have no birth certificate, no employment history. Like, how? The doctor and Rose essentially get grabbed and restrained, and the doctor's like, well, considering that's what's keeping me alive, I'm not really going to tell you, am I? And this is where we kind of get our big info dump.
Can we cut to, before the info dump, the little scene with Adam?
Yeah, we can do.
Because I know it's just before.
I know. So this episode, it does a lot of cutting back and forth.
It is a lot, yeah.
So I kind of wrote it down in my notes to just do all of the doctor stuff and then like all the Adam stuff together, but we can cut back. You're on about when he's recovered from the surgery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, unless you want to do that afterwards. It's up to you.
Yeah, we'll stick with my notes just because we will get there, but I'm just...
okay.
I think it makes sense with the story this way, otherwise we're just going to be like all over the place. But,
okay.
We get the info dump. Obviously, Doctor and Rose are restrained. The editor says that the Empire isn't really human anymore. The great bountiful human empire is not really human. It's just somewhere where they happen to live. And then we hear like... Rah, 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 rah. And he says, oh, yep, sorry. It's where they're graciously allowed to live.
Yeah.
For 90 years, humanity has been controlled by... Do you want to have a go?
No.
No?
Because I've forgotten. All I wrote down was, I call him Max. With a big grin.
Yeah. So humanity's been controlled by the mighty Jagrafests of the Holy Hadradrasic Muxarodonfo. And he says, I call him Max.
Yeah. And we see him, and he's just a big old glob in the ceiling with teeth.
Yeah, he kind of looks like...
Have you seen Monsters, Inc.?
I have seen Monsters, Inc.
And there's like one of the monsters pretty much his head looks exactly like...
See, I was thinking, when you go to like an ice cream machine, like the ones you get in like Pizza Hut or something.
Yeah.
Like the swirly machines.
Yeah.
It's like you pulled one of those levers, you start getting the ice cream swirling, and then you just give it a beak at the end. Or it looks like the poop emoji. You get the poop emoji, make it purple, turn it upside down, and you give it a mouth.
Oh.
That's kind of what this thing looks like.
Yeah, stuck some broken, what are they called, toothpicks in it.
Yeah. He's so the editor's funded by like a consortium of banks or something is what he says.
And he's part of the bank. He's like a banker.
Yeah. Apparently Simon Pegg really struggled to say the Jagrafest's like full name.
Fair.
Apparently it took him like several takes.
Fair.
Because he just struggled to say the mighty Jagrafest of the Holy Hadradrasic Muxarodonfo.
I love the idea of like Russell standing behind the camera with like giant placards, just like bit by bit.
Broken down into syllables. Yeah.
And he's just looking off to it.
Yeah. So the big plan here is that the Jagrafests, through Satellite 5 and the editor, have been manipulating news and creating fear, which then goes on to control the economy, keeps the borders closed, etc., etc. Rose says something like, so what, you just... Earth and all of humanity are basically just slaves. And he says, well, this is the interesting question.
Is a
slave a slave if he doesn't know he's enslaved? And the doctor just goes, yes. He goes, oh, you're no fun. Is that all I'm going to get? Yes. He basically says that Rose says something like, someone must like know that something's wrong. You must get people questioning stuff. And he says, anyone who suspects the truth basically get detected because of the chips in their head.
Yeah.
Again, it's all very dystopian, isn't it? Like, the tech we made to help us is our undoing and all that stuff.
And at this point, Kathika has gotten into a lift.
Yeah, so Kathika's changed her mind.
Yes.
Clearly the doctor's got her thinking, so she gets in the lift and goes to floor 500. So she is essentially in that room, the circle kind of journalism room with the corpses and everything, and she's just kind of listening in and over... what's the word?
Overhearing?
Yeah. Eavesdropping. That's the word I was looking for. She's kind of eavesdropping to this conversation, and the doctor kind of notices her, but obviously he's not giving it away. He's kind of talking, trying to give her hints.
Yeah.
She's watching the editor question Rose and the doctor, and the doctor says that the Jagrafess's metabolism generates a lot of heat, and that gets vented downstairs to keep it cool. So the whole system is essentially acting like a life support system. So that's why this level is like completely frosted over and everything downstairs is roasting, which is kind of cool because you that's not something you'd ever expect, or at least I wouldn't expect. Like when you get there and you're like, if the question is why is it so hot, even when they work out that something upstairs is generating heat and pumping it down, I never would have thought there's something alive up there that's pumping it down as a life support system. I think that's quite unique and quite cool. This is when I would cut back to Adam. So Adam's recovered from his brain surgery.
When the woman's describing the surgery to him, she's like, the initial one takes no time at all. And then she's like, the hole in the head, she was like, oh, it'll only take 10 minutes. We'll get you the best surgeon with all this credit. Don't need to worry about it. And then we cut away and cut back, and he's in a robe. he's in a spa robe. Why is he in a spa robe?
BBC budget, man.
BBC budget. Yeah, but like, it'll take no time at all. Very,
very easy process.
Unintrusive. Well,
take your trousers off.
Get in the spa robe to get comfortable. And I just multiple notes. She's obviously encouraging him to do this surgery. Why doesn't he say no? He's like, I'm good.
Right, so
I got friends waiting for me.
I think this is the thing, right? I think obviously the whole purpose of this episode is intended to be Adam is the companion that couldn't, essentially.
Fair, yeah.
This episode's meant to be, look how good Rose is. Look why the doctor loves Rose, because this is the alternative.
She'll say no.
And I think obviously Adam is remembered, I think, for being selfish, for wanting to make use of the technology and benefit himself and all that stuff. But it's little moments like this where the fact that he hasn't really got a backbone.
Yeah.
He told this nurse several times, like any excuse. He's like, oh no, I can't do it. I haven't got time. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not sure. And she essentially bullied him into it.
Yeah.
Rose would have just put this woman in her place.
She would have just got up.
Yeah. So I think there's all these little moments that's just kind of an indicator of why Adam could never have been the doctor's companion.
Yeah. I like that also she speaks to him about how the door is opened.
Yes.
And she said, oh, well, some people whistle. One person sings oh, Danny boy.
Yeah.
She's like, but yours is just a click of the fingers.
Yes. He does it. He sees the brain, and his instinct is to be sick. And this made me really uncomfortable even as a kid. Like he kind of like retches, and he throws up what looks like a little like orange.
It looks like it's got kiwi in it.
It does.
Like
she says that. Yeah. So he throws up like an ice cube, and the nurse takes it and puts it in like a tray, and she says that she went ahead and installed like whatever package to basically freeze the vomit. Or freeze the waste, I think she phrased it as. But it flavours it with kiwi and orange.
Yeah.
So he doesn't taste puke, basically.
And what I personally like is at the very last moment of this scene, as they're about to cut away, the actor who plays Adam, you can tell he's just dying to laugh because you can just see his face just trying not to laugh at this.
So do you know the note I made is when he's retching, when he's about to throw up the ice cube, his sweat is CGI. I never noticed it before.
I didn't even notice he was sweating.
I noticed it. Yeah, it's only there for maybe 2 seconds. It's very brief. But if you watch it back, when he's like kind of retching, he starts like sweating, like quite profusely sweating. It's not like his face is a bit wet. You can see it dripping down his face, and it's very obviously computer generated sweat.
Oh, I did not notice that. I'm gonna have to watch that again.
I watched it. I was like, oh man, I've never noticed that before, but I'll definitely see it every time now. So Adam goes to the newsroom that they were in the beginning. He calls home. He begins to leave a message. He says, don't erase this message. It'll sound like white noise, but I can translate it later. I don't know how he plans on doing that.
I was going to say, how...
I don't know.
I don't think he's thought this through.
No.
He's stupid.
Yeah.
I literally put down Adam doing stupid again.
Yeah. So he's leaving a message on the phone. He's kind of sat in this recliner chair and he starts the info spike. So we have this beam of energy going into his brain and he's essentially just holding the phone up on speakerphone, like recording the noise, I guess.
I love the idea of his parents actually being home, but...
Oh, not picking the phone up, just hearing the message play.
Like they've got, like, I don't know, some friends around for tea and it's just like...
Yeah, don't erase this message.
I could translate it.
Yeah, like how long is it supposed to go on for? Would it just be like a half hour of static? That'd do your head in, wouldn't it? So now, like I say, the Doctor and Rose are still tied up in these weird kind of like kinky cuffs. And since Adam started the info spike, the editor now has access to everything in Adam's brain, essentially. So obviously he's quizzing the Doctor on who he is, and he realizes, oh, Time Lord, you're a time traveler, you travel in the TARDIS. The Doctor tries to lie, but obviously the editor basically flicks up the screen and shows Adam in the chair. He says, I know everything he does. The Doctor says something like, I'll die before you get your hands on my ship, type of thing. He says, like, die all you like, I've got the key. And then the key starts floating.
Doctor, they like put the image of him on the screen.
Yeah.
And Doctor says, you and your boyfriends.
Yeah. I don't know how the key starts floating.
I also put that down. What is going on with the key?
I think it's obviously there, as a reminder in case the audience forgot that Rose gave him the key. So I think if he just said, I've got the key, and nothing happened, I think a lot of people might be confused if they weren't paying attention. But
initially, when I saw the key moving, I thought somebody else was down there, like pulling the key off of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh no, it's just floating.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because you get the shot. It's clearly, when they were filming it, someone clearly was pulling it up.
Yeah.
Because you only see the key bit start to rise, but you don't actually see the top of the chain. But then when you actually see the shot on the screen of Adam sat in the chair, it is clearly just floating.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that one.
No. Good question. I don't know. Maybe a loss of gravitational force on the space station.
Maybe the energy from the info spike is causing like a vacuum or something. I don't know. But obviously with the TARDIS, the editor can essentially rewrite history or prevent mankind from ever developing, essentially. So his plan's not even going to change with a time machine. He says, like, I can do my plan more efficiently.
I can do it earlier.
Yeah. Obviously, Kathika is just in the other room and she's heard all of this. So she goes to the newsroom and links herself into she overrides the safety protocol, and she starts an info spike herself, and she cuts the connection from floor 1-6 something, whatever the floor Adam's on.
Yeah.
Did you have something to say?
I did. Only because just before she opens the spike, she says, she's like, you should have promoted me.
Yeah, you should have promoted me years ago.
I just love that she's just driven through bitterness. Like, she's looking for this promotion for so long that she's like, screw you.
Hear that, companies? This is what happens when you don't fairly pay your employees.
Yeah, you better start promoting people who deserve it. Otherwise, they're gonna, I don't even know what she's doing. Leaking information, I don't know.
Yeah, so she she's leaking the information that obviously she knows now about everybody. She's also reversing the environmental systems to heat the floor up.
Yeah.
So the editor tries to stop her, but she's like, is kind of like fighting back with her brain somehow. This is when the whole place now, because it's heating up, the ice is melting and the place is kind of shaking. It looks like it's about to self-destruct or something.
Yeah.
Rose, I don't know how, Rose somehow gets free.
Yeah.
Just the place is shaking and then all of a sudden she's free from her.
Because the doctor, she has a little bit of trouble getting the doctor free.
Yeah, because she gets free and then she uses the Dr. Sonic to free him. She's like, how does it work? He's like, just press the button. But yeah, I don't know how she gets free. I guess, I don't know. Just she is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's little things like that with this episode, I think. That small contrivances, not the end of the world, but it's like little things like that probably could have been ironed out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she gets the Sonic and she frees the Doctor. The Jagrafess is overheating. They run. The editor tries to run as well. He says like, thank you very much for our time together, but I think I'm going to resign. Bye.
and then dead Suki.
Yeah, Suki grabs his foot and kind of trips him up. He's like, get off me. He's like kicking her and she just looks him dead in the eye like, no. Then the Jagrafess gets very sweaty and explodes.
He pulls a Slitheen and just
goop everywhere. Yeah.
Because does the editor, or I don't know what his name is, Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg's character. Does he need cool?
I don't think so.
Other than being covered in goop, unless it's like acidic goop.
I don't know. It's like, kind of implied he's dead, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Jagrafess has like acid blood, like the Xenomorph or something.
Maybe.
Don't know.
I thought he's just lying on the floor covered in goop, just like.
So the Doctor and Rose run back to the newsroom where Kathka's lying down. The Doctor kind of clicks and shuts her door head.
Yeah.
And he gives her like a smile.
Yeah, just
like he doesn't say anything, but he's like, proud of you, hun.
Yeah. Well done for thinking.
Well done for using your brain.
Yeah.
I can see it. So they kind of have this brief conversation now where the Doctor's like, right, I'm going to go now because I don't like hanging around. There's all sorts of questions and
a lot of cleanup
paperwork stuff.
Yeah.
She says like, oh, you can't go now because, no one's going to believe me. And he says, oh, you'll be surprised now when people start believing. All the information's out there. Humanity's sort of growth and progression should get back on track, and it'll catch up.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. And that's essentially that exchange. Then we get the Doctor and Rose heading back towards the TARDIS, where Adam is keenly waiting.
Oh.
One thing I noticed here, the cinematography, very weird. So as the Doctor's walking towards Adam, we get this shot where the camera's like right close. It's as if the camera's like strapped to his chest. It's like a really tight close up.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's like walking over like, he's like strutting his shoulders and he looks very determined. And then we get like a behind shot and the camera's just really close to him. You get the impression the Doctor's going to go up and like lamp him one.
I think he probably would have.
Yeah.
If he didn't think he was such a little worm.
I think if you didn't think Adam was irredeemable before, I guess the point now where he tries to blame the Doctor for this.
Yeah, well...
And he says, like, this isn't my fault. You were in charge.
Yeah, because someone says, oh, what are you going to do with your friend? And the Doctor says, he's not my friend.
Yes.
And then, yeah, he's like, it wasn't my fault. It was yours. You were in charge. And he just, like, pulls him into the TARDIS.
Yeah, he just pushes him. He just shoves him in. We get a really... I quite like this editing, like, transition, though, where... he like shoves Adam into the TARDIS door and then it like match cuts to him shoving Adam out of the door, and we don't get like the TARDIS disappearing or anything. We just get this smash cut from in the door, out the door.
I love the idea though of them just sitting really awkwardly like in the TARDIS. He's just sitting in the corner like a like naughty child.
Like that car ride home after a big argument,
yeah.
And it's just a really awkward environment to be in.
Yeah. That's like Rose's mum.
No,
and the Doctor's dad and Adam's bad child. Rose is just like, so, did you enjoy your trip?
No, I love the thought of Adam sat on the bench and he's like head down, like he's really ashamed. He looks up and the Doctor's furiously pumping that fucking bike pump. Looking. Yeah. So he kicks Adam out of the TARDIS. We're now back in Adam's home. I assume in the correct time, but you never know with the Doctor.
That'd be so funny if it wasn't.
They go in and the Doctor somehow knows what Adam's doing with the phone.
Yeah.
I guess that's just implied something he picked up when the editor was showing him the screen. I don't know.
Well, this is the weird thing, because it cuts when he's getting the info spike through his brain and he's on the phone, the blue information is kind of whizzing around the phone, so maybe he can sense that, sort of.
But the Doctor basically sonics the landline, doesn't he? And
either that, or he's been on the ride back, he was listening, like he records the conversations over Rose's phone, listening back.
Yeah.
He's like, do you think he can track it? He's like, you've made like 6 phone calls to your parents and they've been really long and they're all on voicemail.
Well, that's true, actually, because we never actually see Rose get her phone back. I'm like, I love the thought that Adam still has the phone.
Yeah. He's just trying.
I think, doesn't he say in the end of the world, though, he's like, you think that's impressive, you should see the bill.
Yeah.
Like, the thought of Adam's just leaving like half-hour voicemails.
Oh my God. I like the fact that the Doctor comes out and says, I know what you tried to do.
Yes.
And then he sonics the phone, the landline, and it does
blows
like
up.
It does like a little flip. Like,
it does like a little backflip and then just explodes. Yeah. Adam says, what am I going to do? You can't just leave me here. I've still got like a chip in my brain. And the Doctor essentially says, I don't have to do anything. What you have to do, though, is live a quiet life. Because if anyone finds out you've got that, you're going to get dissected. Yeah. So
stay under the radar.
Yeah, stay under the radar. Live a normal life. Don't stand out. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Essentially leaves. Adam begs Rose.
Well, he begs the Doctor to take him with him. And he's like, I only take the best.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. He says, I only take the best. I've got Rose. Then Adam's mum comes in. And he says, "Oh, don't come in a sec." And she's
like, "Oh, I didn't realise you were coming home."
She's the worst. Like, I know this sounds awful because I'm sure she's a lovely lady, but she comes across very overbearing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if your child or son, well, child,
she's too eager, man.
Well, maybe he's probably been living in America for like 10 years or something.
Well, she says 6 months.
Oh, well, either way.
Yeah, but yeah, even Adam's not impressed, clearly, because as she's coming down the corridor, like, "Oh, my son, where are you?" He says, "Rose, please take me with you."
And she's like, "No."
She's like, "Nope." Just walks in the TARDIS. TARDIS obviously dematerializes and leaves.
And before all that, the Doctor and Rose are fucking with Adam's.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah. They're just kind of snapping their fingers and his forehead door keeps opening.
And then Rose is like, "Stop it." And then she does it. She's like, "Sorry, I had to."
Yeah. But once they've gone in the TARDIS, then Adam's mum pops back in. Mm-hmm. And, this is when she says, like, 6 months, doesn't it just go like that? And, she clicks and his
face.
His door opens and it's funny, she doesn't scream, she just kind of looks at him like, what the...
It's just in horror, just like...
And that's literally it.
Yeah.
And that's when we get our sting, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. We don't know what happens to Adam. Maybe he was dissected. To be fair...
I could tell you what happens to Adam.
Oh, God. Well, let me say my thing, and then you take us down a dark path. He's been in America.
Yes.
And I'm assuming his mum knew he was on some sort of genius program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe she thinks like they were doing tests on him of some sort.
Oh God. In the extended universe, to my knowledge, but I've not read this story, but I know of it. Just in passing from research I've done. I can't remember what it's called, so sorry, you'll have to take my word for this or just do a quick Google. I'm sure you can find it, but I think it's a comic book where Adam gets recruited by the Master. Because obviously Adam's got a vendetta against the Doctor.
Fair, yeah.
And they work together. The Doctor ends up defeating them both. The way he essentially deals with Adam is somehow like wiping his memory and reverting him back to a child.
Yeah.
Kind of like what he does with Blonde, I guess, but instead of turning into an egg, kind of just turns into like a 10-year-old or something.
I like the idea of turning Adam into an egg.
And he takes him back to like the 1960s or something like that. And then it's revealed, I think, in the last panel of the column that he is one of the children that gets taken by the 456. The 456 for anyone listening, if you've not watched it, is from Children of Earth, which is the third series of Torchwood, which is arguably one of the bleakest stories in this entire universe.
Yeah.
And the 456 are horrible. And yeah, what a fate for Adam, I think.
Kind of deserved it, didn't he?
But yeah, what a twist. Can you imagine that? You're like, oh, the Doctor saved the day, he's reverted him to a child, he's going to give him another chance to like grow up and become a different person. No.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, the long game. Go on. Hit me with it.
I know it wasn't a question, but a good question.
What are your thoughts of the long game? So you said at the beginning of the episode you liked it more on a rewatch.
I think I'm always conflicted.
Yeah. I think the issue with Series 1, I know you don't agree because you dislike some episodes, but for me it's like Series 1 is mixed up with average episodes and then fantastic episodes. So even though this is an episode that I quite like, it naturally falls, like I said in the beginning of this episode, it naturally falls into my least favourite spot just by proxy. Because the other stories, even stories, say, like Aliens of London, which isn't one of my favourites, it has a lot of nice character moments in there between, like, Mickey and Jackie and Rose that I think do a lot of good world building, even if the Slitheen storyline is not so great, where this episode is probably the most just middling, just, yeah.
This episode, I know it's not, but it kind of feels like a Dr. Light. Or like a Dr. Middling, because it flips around so much.
I guess it's because the Doctor doesn't do anything.
Neither does Rose. Like, they hardly do anything.
Well, the Doctor obviously gets access to the top floor, but the Doctor doesn't save the day. The Doctor doesn't do anything.
No. So he just...
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But saying that, though, the Doctor technically doesn't do anything in Unquiet Dead either.
No, but I feel like he feels more... I don't know... important.
Yeah, he does feel a lot more prevalent in that story.
Yeah. Whereas it seems here he's going along for the ride.
Yeah.
Whereas usually he's taking people along for the ride. I mean, obviously he tells Kathaka about things and opens her mind to things quite literally and not. But
so how do you feel about this episode so far where we are? So bear in mind this is episode 7. So in comparison to Rose... Sorry, I just had a little hiccup. In comparison to Rose, The End of the World, The Unquiet Dead, Aliens of London, World War III, Dalek.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I think this series gets a lot better in its second half. I think from Dalek onwards, with this episode as an exception, again, I don't dislike this episode, but this is the one kind of maybe dip. But I'd say from Dalek onwards, it's all pretty strong between Father's Day and The Empty Child and Parting of the Ways and all that stuff. I quite like Boomtown as well. But I'd say for the first half of the series, what do you think?
I struggle because this era isn't so much my kind of thing. I think, as we've said in the past, we have very different things we get from Doctor Who, and I like the whimsical, warm feeling from Moffat's era, which you don't get so much with this. So from a actually how I feel about this, I don't like it.
I guess there's that thing of
what I like, but
yeah, I guess you have that separation, don't you? Of like, I acknowledge it's a well-written episode, but it's just not the kind of TV that I gravitate towards.
Yeah. Like I said, I think as an overall, it's an interesting story again. I think it's a little, what's the word, on the nose.
Yeah, it's not very subtle.
It's not, but then a lot of stuff in at least the first season is not subtle.
No.
I mean, you literally look at Dalek, you look at Aliens of London.
Yeah.
It's all very...
It is very on the nose, isn't it?
Very on the nose, which I kind of... It's not my kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I do like... Things I like about the episode. Again, I like the idea of, the space station basically being run by, a creature that nobody else knows about and it uses it for life, and how, media is manipulated. But I don't know. Overall, it's not my favourite by far.
No. To be fair, I don't think this episode is anyone's favourite. I've never seen any one person online with the opinion that The Long Game is their favourite episode of Series 1. Which, yeah, whatever. I'm pretty sure... I can't remember if I showed you or not, but this year, Doctor Who Magazine did their subscriber polls.
Yes.
Where people got to vote in their favourite episodes, and I'm pretty sure that The Long Game was voted as the worst episode of the 9th Doctor's era. Which obviously is only one series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure this was at the bottom.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Again, it's part of it. I like Kathica.
Yeah.
I like her character. I like her...
It's funny because in the beginning, I think she's kind of established to be kind of annoying. Where she's like, she only cares about her job and the promotion.
Kind of brown-nosing a little bit.
Yeah, a bit brown-nosy, a bit... She acts a bit higher than that. When the Doctor comes in, he's asking questions. She's a bit like, what are you, stupid? But then I think she brings it around and... Yeah, you know that she's a lot more headstrong than maybe you initially believed.
Yeah.
See, I know what you mean.
And I like the idea of like Suki's character as well, being a rebel.
Justice for Suki.
Yeah. I like the idea of that because it's very Star Wars.
You know when 15, if 15 had found Suki, he would have cried, right?
Oh, put me poor 15 alone. But I like it's very Star Wars, but I like the idea of there being rebels. I mean, we kind of see that later on, don't we? Because Rose and Mickey in later seasons are kind of like rebels a little bit, aren't they?
What do you mean, like Series 4?
Yeah.
Rebels isn't the word. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mean the end of Series 2? Do you mean we're in like Doomsday?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
yes,
Rose, because Rose is still travelling with the Doctor, but obviously Mickey's part of the Parallel Earth gang, isn't he? With
I can't remember.
Oh no, what's his name?
Blonde.
Yeah, the guy with the blonde spikes.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh god, Rob's gonna kill me.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, I like that. I think it's quite cool that even it's that thing of even though media's being manipulated and so is mankind, not everybody is. People are seeing through it.
Yes.
And there's like a faction of people who are rising up against it. I like that. That's quite cool. Yeah, what about you? What's your opinion on this?
I can't remember his name.
I'll Google it.
That's so annoying. God. Yeah, like I said, I know I've said it already. I think this is my least favourite episode of Series 1. I still don't think it's a bad episode at all. I think it's... I like Series 1 a lot. So this kind of naturally just falls into that place by default because everything else, like I say, even episodes like... I think Aliens of London at its worst is worse than this. Yeah. But I also think Aliens of London at its best is better than this. Where this is just kind of like an average whatever. Kind of just indifferent to it. It's one of those episodes, again, like I think I said this on The Unquiet Dead, where it's not an episode I would ever go out of my way to put on. Like if I was just flicking through iPlayer or the Blu-rays, I'd never be like, oh yeah, let's watch The Long Game. Yeah. But when I do a rewatch of the series and I watch it, I do quite enjoy it. So that's kind of...
That's fair
where
enough.
I am with it. I do have some working titles.
Oh, here we go, yeah.
I've only got two. So one is The Companion Who Couldn't, which I guess, again, is a bit on the nose.
A bit on the nose, yeah. I'm glad you didn't go with that one.
And the second title is just Adam, which I think is a decent title. I think The Long Game is better, even though The Long Game seems a bit... The Long Game's quite clever, I think, because obviously it applies to this episode in terms of the Jagerfest's plan of halting everything for like 90 years and essentially crafting this this kind of dystopia where it controls the narrative is quite clever. But then the fact that this episode plays back into the finale and essentially acts as The Long Game for that as well, I think it's quite a clever title.
Yeah.
Adam, I just think, is noteworthy because Adam ended up being a title for a Torchwood episode in Series 2. Obviously not the same Adam, a different Adam, but there was an episode in the Whoniverse called Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. I think the one that was chosen was the best.
Yeah, I agree. The other things I have is that on the DVD commentary for this episode, I think Russell T Davies said that backstory he'd written for Adam was that his dad had arthritis, which seems irrelevant. But I think that was meant to be this. So the information that Adam was putting back in time was to help him essentially cure his dad's arthritis.
Yeah.
Which I guess is like kind of interesting. But then on the other hand, I feel like it takes away from Adam just kind of being a bit selfish.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I guess you could argue with computers, especially like nowadays, they're very advanced and they're using AI to solve a lot of medical issues. But
what does microprocessors have to do with arthritis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say I don't know if that was like either an early draft and originally he was going to ask for something medical related, or whether, I don't know, the history of the microprocessor was just a way for him to get money.
Maybe.
To then put research into arthritis funding. I don't really know, but I think that was just something that was mentioned on the DVD commentary, which I thought was kind of interesting. The other one is that Adam's mother, played by Judy Holt, her name is Sandra Mitchell, who was actually a character from Children's Ward. So this technically is not Adam's mother's first appearance. She started off as a character in a show called Children's Ward, and she essentially cameos in this as Adam's mother, but her name in that show was Sandra Mitchell. And the same actress plays Adam's mother.
Sandra
Mitchell. So yeah, just something there, just a bit of world building, I guess.
Is there any reason for that? Was Russell a fan?
I don't know. I don't have any further information. I think Children's Ward was BBC.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the link. They just got the same woman in and obviously played Adam's mother, who we know's surname is Mitchell. So, yeah.
I love stuff like that. It's so
bit of fun for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that thing, you're like in a bunch of like Tarantino's movies, how like they're all implied to be in the same universe. How it's like, I don't know, they were like characters in like Django. There's like a gravestone or something in Django where one of the characters' like surnames is like the same surname as a character from Pulp Fiction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of all implied to be one big like universe.
I love the idea that officially now Children's Ward is a Doctor Who spin-off.
Yeah. The only other thing I have is that in terms of filming locations, obviously most of this is filmed inside. Well, all of it's filmed inside.
Yeah.
And the majority of the Satellite 5 stuff was filmed in the old BT building in Corriton, in Cardiff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, yeah. But that's all I have, really.
Was, just a question. I know you said that majority of the CG budget was used on...
The End of the World.
End of the World. Was any of it reused here, or was it counted as the budget here? Because we see a couple of like long shots of
the station.
It's
a different ship. It's not the same shots.
Oh no, I just meant like of space.
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I guess space wouldn't take any CGI really, would it? It's just kind of blackened stars, but yeah. Obviously, Satellite 5 comes back later in the finale, so I wouldn't be surprised if they reused shots for that.
Yeah.
But obviously, Platform 1 and Satellite 5 have different appearances, so I don't think anything was reused from there, really. Yeah, that's all I've got. Do you have anything else? Anything else you want to say about The Long Game?
No, not particularly.
No? It's a very just whatever episode, isn't it?
It is. As I said,
I enjoyed watching it, but it's like, this is going to be, I think, our shortest episode by far.
Well, it's one of those things that I think in other episodes not that I'm right in any sense, but I think I've said how I think I could improve upon the episodes.
Yeah.
This, I don't think I could. I think it's just one of those, it's
just whatever, innit?
I'm sorry, it was never destined to be a great episode.
Probably hence why it's slapdash in the middle of the series, yeah.
I think it's entertaining for what it was, but I don't think, I think it's just another Who episode.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But yeah.
But yeah, with that in mind, thank you all very much for listening. Don't forget to drop a like down below if you enjoyed. We really appreciate it. Leave a lovely comment for Charlotte.
Or Connor.
Yes. No.
And join us next time for
We're going to have a bit more of a personal story for Rose next episode. We'll be watching Father's Day, which I think is one of the stronger episodes in this series.
And actually, it's, from what I can remember, the first one that I saw as a child.
Was it?
I think so, yeah. It's the when we rewatched these like a couple of years ago, when it was like my first watch throughout.
Yes.
It was the only one I could remember.
That's interesting.
I remember like little bits of Dalek, but that was the only one I fully remember.
You remember like the plot and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's something to keep in mind next time. But until then, stay safe, stay away from gelatinous ceiling monsters.
Yeah.
And bye-bye.